I am M48. The person that this happened with was F59. I will call her Deb for this confession/story. My family and her family, specifically her husband's family, have been very close my entire life. I grew up around her and was very close with her husband and their kids. Deb and I never seemed to make a connection in any way. We didn't dislike each other, we just didn't have anything in common. I left a 23-year long-term relationship 2 years ago. The last 18 to 19 years was sexless. We had kids, and she blamed them, even after they grew up and left home. Her kids were older, our son had come of age when we split, but was rarely home. Our son has a life. I should mention that I did have a 3-month fling with a lady I went on a blind date with after leaving my relationship. Anyway, Deb's in-laws passed away not long ago. I knew them well. They were like family to me. I got first dibs at taking any furniture I may want from their house before it was sold. Last week I met Deb at their house to go through and tag the furniture I wanted. The house is fairly large, old southern house. Deb and I hadn't seen each other in several years. We were catching up with each other and talking about family events as we went room to room checking out the furniture. We made it to the last room, the guest bedroom. As I was looking over everything, Deb got quiet. I was standing at the foot of the bed and looked over at her. She had this wild look in her eyes. I mean primal wild, not wild as in crazy or different. She took a couple steps toward me, leapt onto me, wrapping her arms around my neck and kissing me, which caused me to fall backwards on the bed with her on top of me. My mind started spinning as she raised up and started ripping her shirt and bra off. That's when my responsible brain shorted out and my primal brain instincts kicked in. I will spare you the details. As soon as we finished, we looked at each other in horror. We both had post-coital regret at the same time. She started apologizing to me, and I to her. She said she hadn't been alone with a man since her husband became impotent nearly 30 years ago, after their last child was born. She told me she just couldn't control herself once her mind realized the possible opportunity for sex was there. She started to cry. I pulled her close and held her tight. I confessed that if it hadn't been so long since I last had sex, that I would have been a stronger man for her. I wouldn't have allowed what happened to happen. I admit, I teared up as I told her my primal brain kicked in as well. She didn't see that as her head was buried in my chest. We dressed in silence, her on one side of the bed, me on the other. At the door, we held each other again as friends. I asked her what she was going to tell her husband. She said she didn't know, but would let me know before she tells him. I told her that I would have my son and his friend pick up the furniture instead of him and me. We gave each other a tight hug and pop kiss before leaving. Last night she messaged me on social media. Her husband was watching those killer wife documentaries, where a wife cheated and killed her husband to be with her lover. He asked her how many affairs she'd had since he was unable to perform. Worried, she asked him whatever made him think she'd had an affair. He said nothing had made him think it, but he assumed she was getting it, when and where she could. She said she laughed it off, and now has decided not to tell him since she has no plans to ever cross a line like that again. I am single now, but I have never ever cheated on a partner before. I have never ever been with someone knowing they are in a serious relationship or married. I still feel guilty as hell, and I'll never be able to look at my friend in the eyes again after being with his wife. I won't destroy him by telling him. I also won't see Deb again. At least not alone. I've never felt guilt like this before in my life. I've always stuck to the code of not betraying another man with his girl. Even though it's happened to me when I was young and dating. For those that have put your significant other in a place of no sex or intimacy, just know that even if they are a strong, faithful person to you, there may come a time where they falter and give in to the moment. Don't be harsh with your judgments and penalties for not taking care of your person. There are ways, if you care enough to try. I forgot to mention. My friend refused ED meds and to change his diet and lifestyle to help his ED. What I think is that, from a neutral perspective, what happened to the husband is not justifiable, as infidelity breaches trust and the commitments of a marriage. However, the situation is deeply rooted in years of emotional and physical neglect. with the husband refusing to address his ED or seek solutions, which likely contributed to Deb's vulnerability. While this doesn't excuse the actions, it highlights the importance of mutual effort in maintaining intimacy and addressing issues in a relationship. Both parties share responsibility for the state of their marriage, but the act of infidelity itself remains a breach of trust that cannot be fully justified.